digest. Kayamba is coming live from the city of Paris, from our studio. This is our weekly digest where we'll bring you topic, research and trending issues that need a special attention, and we'll bring them to the public, for the public to have some understanding of what is going on. Welcome to Kayamba FM. Your host today is Ajak. Will be with you today with the important topic of global flood disasters and how the world is being impacted by the changes on climatic space, and what does that mean for the suffering population of South Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kayamba FM. We normally come to you on a weekly basis and we bring to you weekly digest from Kayamba. This is where we look at topical issues that are affecting the entire population of the world, and things that we believe we should consider. As I mentioned last week, we will be more specific because our channel is educational channel. We deal with educational programs that we believe that they are of interest to the public. And for the last few weeks, we have not been very prevalent as usual. We have kept our timing a bit, and because we are setting ourselves up for continuous streaming live program, because our online program is always there, and our online radio is simulcasting. Now, you have seen on the titles which I have posted. The title is the global flood disasters. Some of you may have forgotten quickly what happened in 2019. We will share with you shortly what happened in 2019. The world is grappling with flooding. Australia is flooded. The state of Victoria is dealing with flood. A few weeks ago was Pakistan, India, United States in some part. There are usually cyclones and hurricanes. For those who live in the Pacific regions, we deal with cyclones. And for those in the North America, it's Katrinas. And those in tropical, there are usually heavy rains and flash flooding. Is it the new phenomena? Please, if you are hearing me, let me know, because I want to speak to you on this important topic. South Sudan is one of those nations that is situated on the equator, and we are in the tropical regions. Flood occurrences are very common, and particularly for the whole region along the side. Now, for those who are very acquainted with the sign of the climate change, it is forecast that flooding will become very prevalent and prominent and will take new dimensions. It becomes more common than usual. South Sudan, as a nation, is not immune. If you have just forgotten, just in case you have forgotten, few months or even a year ago, you have seen all these pictures. These pictures were in Queensland and are still the repeated pictures now in Victoria in Australia. In New South Wales, this is some of the areas in the United States. It is flooding everywhere. And for us in the south regions, we are not spared. The flooding become more common and prevalent than ever before. We presented to you some few months back. It was a year when I did these presentations, when the flood occupied about 90% of the Jonglei states and the Upper Nile regions. These pictures were trending online. There were these presentations which I did as part of the local efforts among the South Sudanese community, and we presented it to Australian agencies for disaster relief for our people back home. So these images, you have seen them. They were trending online, and we put them together and we present them to government officials, to some ministers, to see the scale of damage and the suffering of the people. This was in the city of Bo. This was Bo town. But if you go to the rurals, there was this picture which was trending. Now, the local community start building the dike. You have seen this. This was 2019 disaster. But prior to that, we at Thierry Research, I had put a proposals on the analysis of the South catchment system and flood mitigation in Jonglei states. It was to be done as part of a collaboration between the states and the federal government in the Republic of South Sudan. This was the project which we thought could help and could mitigate the risk of floods in our nations. Did this go through? Considering the instabilities and what is going on in our country, it has been very hard to come up with a substantial and well-structured strategies to mitigate some of the natural disasters. And the most common one nowadays is flooding. Flooding. As we speak, it has been raining heavily in the cities and across the rural South Sudan. Towns are flooded. 75,000 people, to be precise, are exposed to flooding. They are displaced. They are suffering. They are left without shelters, without food. It is a famine that is looming. It is a natural catastrophe. This population was already vulnerable. They did not have stability, and they did not have any constant supply of food resources. As the war has devastated the Republic of South Sudan, the population is always vulnerable, and whenever there is a natural disaster, they are put to the tipping point. Now, how can the government, the local expert, the international expert, and the local population help in mitigating flood disasters? I want to bring to your attention that flood disasters will not be one-off event. There will be reoccurrence of it. And it's something we have to understand and accept and plan and mitigate and live with it. Nowhere in the world is spared from flooding. Big cities from advanced nations are not spared either. Rural cities, rural towns are flooded in Australia. And that's what has also happened in South Sudan. I've checked lately and we realized Boro Town has been flooded. Is it that it is too heavy? The rain was too heavy? or there is lack of infrastructure. The drainage system is not in place. It is a common understanding, and everyone understood that the way our towns are planned are not ready for the frequent climatic changes, for flood disasters. They are not planned to cope and deal with flooding. We have towns like Boltown, which is supposed to be well managed because it is the seat of the state government. It is a municipality with its own mayor. But guess what? A very little frequency of rain would cause a flooding of some part of the town because the drainage system have been set upon. People occupied the waterways, and the municipality and the local authorities are busy doing what God knows. One of the main tasks is to ensure that the town is livable. These issues cascade all the way up. Every effort must start locally, and you cascade it up. And some few things can start up from the top and cascade it down. What am I talking about? The people of the South Sudan must do what the rest of the world is doing. Learn to live with the nature. That is what I'm talking about. Learn to live with the nature. Flooding is not going to end. It will come and become frequent. And our authorities and people in the position of power must think beyond the conventional thinking. You must think beyond the conventional thinking. Go beyond what you normally do. The new normalcy is that it will rain heavily and quickly and flood quickly, and then it will dry up quickly. So what do we need to do? We have to come up with strategies. We have to understand the pattern. We have to understand the river system. We have to understand the rain pattern. And that is what we need to do as people who live in a flood-prone areas. In 2019, just before the 2019 flood, as I mentioned earlier, Professor Gabriel McQuay and I sat and we brainstormed, and through Duvico Consultancy, we put up proposals on how to mitigate, come up with mitigation remedies on flooding, particularly in Jonglei State, which is a flood-prone area because it sits within the SAT region. And it was to come up with the extreme wet weather management strategies plan. This proposal was given to the state government in August 2019. This was just 6 months before the flooding of 2019. It was before these pictures here, you see. We did this earlier, before 2020, okay? This one was August 2020. But we put a proposal because we studied the weather pattern. And we said, in the next 6 to 12 months, the weather forecast indicate that there is going to be a catastrophe if it is not well managed. Okay? It was a proposal that in the next 12 months there was going to be a catastrophe. We were sounding an alarm bell to the state government. This was in August, the 5th of August, 2019. That is when I put the proposal together to the state government of Jonglei States that a disaster is coming. The weather pattern indicate rain events that are going to cause flooding. Some people may ask, how do we know it? Because we are data scientists. I am a data scientist. Professor McQuay is a statistician. He has a PhD in statistics. So we had looked at the data. And we propose, in order to mitigate the risk and the suffering of our people, we have to come up with the strategies. We know that from the literature, South Sudan and Sudan in general and Jonglei states have always been exposed to flooding, which is very frequent. It is not a new phenomenon. It is something that has occurred for centuries. For example, between 18, as indicated in our literature, between 1870 and 1900, there were 21 significant flood events. And when we are talking of significant flood event, we are talking of a large flooding of the scales of 1918 and the scales of 1961 to 64 and the scale of 2020 to 21. This is the event we are talking about. Literature indicates that the frequency fluctuates from one century to another. So between 1870 to 1900, within the space of 30 years, it was almost every 9 months a flood would occur. And the rest of the period were annotated with droughts and some few months of a good climate where crops could grow. Now, from 1900, there was a period of stability in the river system. But then between 1916 to 1920, there was huge flooding. It was so bad that the people of Nuer called it Fiaulwal in 1918. That flooding killed a lot of trees within the Nuer regions, because it was between 1916 to 1920. It took 4 years for the water to subside. But the people of South Sudan have not yet learned a lesson. 1964, which has been termed as power by the Dinka people, it took another 4 years, 61 to 64. People can debate what caused it, but the reality is that people must learn to live with the nature. We realize that there is no region that is spare. It only takes 270 cubic meters per second for some part of Jonglei to be flooded. Particularly those one along the eastern bank or the eastern part of the state, such as the area of Pibor to Launuer. And also within the Baral Jebel region, because the river banks are not very clear, they are very shallow. Why have our people not learned a lesson? Because historically, people used to live far away from the riverbank. But now we have towns along the riverbank. Is it not time to learn? What am I saying today? There is nothing new with flooding. But what has changed is the habitats, the development of towns along the riverbanks, and how the livelihood of the people have been uprooted. Therefore, as we speak, there is a need to have a disaster preparedness plan at all levels of governance in South Sudan. South Sudan is prone to famine, and particularly Jonglei states. Some of you must have seen this. As you see, large part of the south cover Jonglei, and these are wet areas. The Sobat River come from there. This is the south region. Every time it rains heavily, the whole region is always exposed to to extreme famine is called category 5 by the World Food Program. It is a category where people start dying. Currently, 100,000 people. And the UNHCR, the UN counted 75,000. These are the people who have reported to UN. These are people who are seeking food aids. 75,000 of them currently have barely nothing. But then the UN has nothing for them. What do you think will happen? And there is no level of government, whether the state, the county, the Payam, the county, the state, or the national government. Nobody is talking about the flood disaster. 10% of the population is facing starvation as we speak. And I'm not just talking about people of Jonglei. I'm talking about the whole region, the whole nations. If you look at some part of the Upper Nile, some pockets within the Barghazal regions, and the towns along the Nile, the population that has been displaced is 100,000. 75,000 of them are facing starvations. But no one is saying anything about it. No one is saying anything about it. No one sees it as a problem. I'll show you. No one sees it. This is what the United Nations say. 75,000 people. Okay? If you go to FPD institutes and go to news, you'll find this. We have put a machine learning algorithm to pull in the data. These are the people who are facing food shortage because they have been displaced. Can we not do anything as a nation to end this suffering one and for all? Since 624 AD, 1,400 years ago, the region has seen flooding along the Nile and within the Sat region. 1,400 years, but the people in the region have learned nothing. Nothing. Why can't the local authorities allow a bit of help? Particularly, there's no reason why Bo Town drainage system, we are not talking a high-class culvert system. We are not talking about a complicated or concrete culverts. We are talking of simple channel. And the former Lord Mayor, the former Mayor of Bo Town, Honorable Guy Macaulay, tried and he did something. He opened all the water channels. But currently, people occupy those channels. My challenge to local authorities and the municipality of Bo Town is that, do you have to wait for the federal government to come and dig the water channel for you? Please do something. Because among the 75,000 people, a number of suburbs within Bo Town are flooded. It's not that the river has burst its bank. It's just it rained and the water has stagnated. There is no water channel. It is a complete failure of thinking. How can something occur every now and then and we cannot do something simple? And that was the reason we had put a proposal at Dubico Consulting to study the pattern and come up with a drop design, actually, of your drainage system. Because when people were just building the dike with their hand, I understand now that there is a dike being built along the river. But Is that sufficient? And that was the reason for our proposals, that it need to be researched, come up with a draft high-level design that is cheap and easy to execute. You don't need millions of dollars to do that. Of course, if you're going to do some culvert, you will do it at a later stage. But can you ensure that the drainage system within the town, the waterways are open? Do not block the waterways. And this is a challenge to the new leadership of the municipality of Boro Town, the Lord Mayors. Also within Bentiu, in Malacan, all our cities, and the rural South Sudan, we need a flood mitigation measures. Something that would always be trigger. You need a plan that you can trigger. It's called disaster preparedness. It's something with the Lord Mayor, the state government can trigger. Nowadays, when it is flooded, everybody ran back to Juba. If it flooded, all the leadership ran back to Juba. I don't think it's the best way to do. It is a complete failure and a breach of contract between the leaders and the people. Because leaders are in there for contract. They have a social contract between them and the population, which trust and look upon them to stand in. Please learn. We have indicated, and it's going to be really, really hard in the next wet seasons. The town, the municipality of Boro Town and those other towns along the Nile, they are going to go through a brief period. Between December and February, it is going to be dry a bit. The monsoon wind will come along. There will be evaporation. The water will dry up. Take that window as an opportunity to set up your drainage system and ensure that people don't settle on them. Because the next rainy season is going to be really wet and heavy. That is what the weather pattern indicated. There is no reason why Boro Town should have been flooded in 2022. There is no reason. Yes, it would rain, but it will flow into the nearby lakes or the tributaries of the Nile. But 2023 to 24, all the pattern and the data indicate a chance of flooding. And that is what I'm asking the leaders to think of. Please do something. Let's play the music a bit as okay, let's play this. That is the best African music could get. Enjoy the African music. This is Kayamba Fm. Friends, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are going to migrate to YouTube. We will not be using so many unwarranted, unjustified. Censorship is one of the things that should not be encouraged. Therefore, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channels and follow us on YouTube.
Filmstro.
to keep our promise, as we say last time, we are going to be briefed all the time. And we'll do that today. We are not going to be very long. We'll keep it briefed because we think it is important. When we keep it brief, people will have a chance, those who are not here, to go and view the video. So, let's look at what is happening South Sudan in the media today. So normally, we encourage you to go to FED Institute and go to news here. And when you go to news, you click on it, it will bring you the news one box like this. And you'll see it said there are 44 articles. So click on the box and you'll see all the news. So what is happening today in the South Sudan in the media? There are a number of articles which we think they are critical for you to read through because we have done the hard work. We have built a machine learning algorithm that scout the website, the internet, and pull together anything to do with South Sudan. And that's what we have been giving you. So we have done the hard work. You don't go and do Googling all over the place. Just go to FED Institutes, go to news, and then scroll through it. Now, one of the other disasters, which is trending, and South Sudan is trending for all the bad reasons, is the internal fightings that killed 150 people in the last 2 days. 150 South Sudanese. What a waste of human life. And then there is flooding. They call it historic flood. It is occurring almost across the nations. And that displaced 75,000 people. And those are left without food. And they call it a devastation because it is a fourth year in a row. It is like between 1916 to 1920, there was a flooding that occurred for 4 years. Okay? 1916 to 1920. And in 1918, it was the peak. That is where all the trees across the Launuer land die. And they call it Piaulwal. In 1961 to 64, another historic flood occurred, and people call it Power. And then in 2020 to 2022, okay, it actually started in 2019 to 2022, is almost 4 years. That is another historic flooding that is happening across the regions. And 75,000 people, as you can see there, are exposed to starvation. These are people who are asking for the food aid. You see, these are the people who depend on the UN, and they have been displaced. And then the news continue. Those are horrific pictures you are seeing. These are the people of South Sudan. Okay? These are the people. So go through it, read the news. Nothing is looking good for our nation, friends. Nothing is looking good. We need prayers and need to think outside the box. People must join hands to save the situation. Let's talk to our politicians. There's no reason why the public figures will be keeping quiet. Under whose docket? Is there a minister? A minister that deals with social services and humanitarian? Is there such ministry in the government? Why are they keeping quiet when 100,000, 10% of the population is facing starvation? They barely have nothing, and the UN say they have nothing for them. 100,000 people have nothing, and the UN say have nothing for them. And no one is talking about. This is a catastrophe, and this is what Kayamba FM want to bring to your attentions, because we think it is something we have to mention. And we did that in 2019 through our proposals. In 2019, we sound an alarm bell. We sent a proposal. We sent a proposal in 2019, August, before the flooding becomes so worse in March of 2020. So we are doing that again. And it's up to the public and up to the people of South Sudan to learn. If anyone is interested in the report and the presentations which we did, we will be sharing them on our portals. And this is what happened in 2019. When the flood occurred, it was 1.3 million people in Jonglei State that were exposed to starvation. 628,000 were facing food crisis. 556 children were going to be malnourished, severely malnourished. 106 pregnant women and lactating women were facing the burden of severe malnutrition. That was in 2019-2020. We will reprint this data again, but this is the magnitude of the problem, and no one always cares. And we think we have leaders. Okay? We always think we have leaders. And when we are talking Jonglei, we are talking everybody. So whenever there is a flooding, as we speak now in Pibor, as we speak now, people of Greater Pibor and people within the Gawe regions are facing a disaster. And that is the magnitude of the problem we think you should know. These were the statistics we pulled together, and this was presented to Australian government institution through our local leadership, the community leaderships. I put this data together. We'll refresh it. We'll look at the data again, what is happening. Nothing appeared to have changed. As we speak immediately, 75,000 are facing starvation now, as we speak. So nothing has even changed. If anything, these numbers have become worse. Okay? If anything, these numbers, these are more than 12-month numbers. They have even become worse. Okay? This number has become worse. Last time it was 106,000 pregnant and lactating mothers that were facing severe malnutrition. And then 560,000 children, 500,000 children, were facing severe malnutrition. And when they're talking severe malnutrition, there is a chance of a child dying before the age of 5. Okay? That is what it means. A child dying before the age of 5. A mother dying at childbirth because of malnutrition. And this is due to the disasters. It is not big enough to warrant the discussion within the nation among our leaders. Is 1.2 million people, 1.3 million people. In the next 1.3 million people, which is the 10% of the population, in the next 12 months are going to be at risk of starvation. Is it not big enough? Is it not worse enough? Is it not worse for our leaders to talk about 1.3 million people? Is 628,000 who are at the verge of famine, starvation. Is it not big enough? Food crisis. So 1.3 is starvation, is a famine, is catastrophe. 628, they are facing crisis, but not at the point of dying. 556,000 children, severe acute malnourished. Is it not a big number to talk about? Is it a small number for 500,000 children to die in a nation and our leaders are keeping quiet? Just tell me, is it not worse enough to talk about it? Is 106 pregnant mothers and lactating mothers, are they not people to talk about? Please think and have this discussion among yourself at the local people and talk to your leaders. Otherwise, this nation is doomed and going down the drain. The moment you start losing human resource and no one cares about it, that is existential threats. And I urge the people to get informed about some of these things. We'll continue to bring you data and informations. Please follow us. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Kayamba FM YouTube channel is going to be an important source of information. We are going to bring to you all the relevant news and informations, trending topic, research, which we believe is relevant and can be of significant importance to you. Please follow us and listen to the music as we close this program. Remember, we will be migrating to YouTube channel for most of our streaming. Thank you. You are listening to Kayamba FM.
Filmstroke.com. 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 Filmstroke.com.
Bye-bye and have a good week. Follow Kayamba FM on YouTube channel. Subscribe for all the updates and the news that we bring to you regularly. Also, follow us on Facebook. Our apps is out.
Filmstroke.com.
Go to Kayamba FM or type in zeno.fm. Search for Kayamba. We'll be simulcasting 24/7. Thank you. I have another wonderful, blessed week. See you next time. And as I said, at some stage, we'll
Filmstroke.com.
at the languages. Kayamba FM. Thank you. Bye-bye.